Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report, and we have Ron Patterson talking about lumen photon infrared light therapy that stimulates stem cells, detoxes your body, improves circulation, releases nitric oxide, increases cellular biophotonic communication, activates DNA. I mean, it does everything. It is I call it, instead of light therapy, I call it life therapy. Because light is infrared molecules vibrating in solution, are the vibrational frequencies of biological molecules in water, which is an informational superconductor. So there are competing machines that try to say they do what lumen photon does. Don't believe it. I've heard about machines with light, blue light, red light, different frequencies we call, like the nano frequency or wavelength. What you want to know is that it's the frequency of the pulsation that determines the carrier frequency of the information in the body. Yes, biological molecules have their own harmonic frequency, but the carrier wave that carries it for ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm are specific pulsatile frequencies of infrared light, and that's what matters. Ron, what can you say about some of these so-called competitor machines, whether they're in Kamak or Schlemmerk or elsewhere, in terms of how they work?
The word is ignorance. They just don't know what they're missing. They see these flashy other LEDs that are colored lights and that sort of thing, and they penetrate about skin deep. That's as much as they go. Very shallow penetration. Our infrared LEDs have been documented penetrating at least 8 to 10 inches into the body to somebody who has deep internal issues going on, and most of these people are also going to be overweight. So it will penetrate very deeply into the body. This was very early seen when it was used for treating horses, and horses that have colic. That means they're having to work through the gut. Sometimes that could be 15, 18 inches into the body before it's working. And in those cases, it still works. We're not exactly sure why. We believe that whereas normally the infrared will not go that deep, but the wavelengths, these pulsation frequencies that are applied, seem to be the carrying that moves the light more deeply into the body.
They carry it along fascial planes, basically. Yeah. And the fascia is connective tissue, which is collagen, and I've discovered the biophotonic physics. It's actually the phenolic side groups of collagen, which is the proline transhydroxylated residue that connects them all. So in a sense, it's the phenolic side groups that carry the biophotonic energy and frequency or light pulses along collagen in your body, which is the superstructure that even determines organ structure. They did research at the University of Wisconsin, and they have biological scientists there that take out, for example, ghost hearts out of, say, sheep, and they can put human stem cells in and it'll actually turn into heart muscle cells. So the collagen actually sends a signal to tell the cells how to differentiate into which organ structure based on the collagen. So the way it works is the body and the genetics creates a collagen framework for your organ systems, and then the organs are created in a series of structures, like form a sheet, pinch the sheet into a tube, create a folded area, and create valves, etc. So your heart is formed. That's the way every organ structure is basically folded sheets, almost like, if you want to call it, I call it cellular and tissue origami. That's how your body's made. And the origami is collagen. It's ruled by light. So the early organogenesis of an organism, if you could actually look at the frequencies of light that are going on in the various stages of the ontogeny of a fetus, from a blastula to a morula, to the early fetal tissue plates, to the formation of the neural tube, etc., in early stages before 6 weeks, you'd see these happening. Now, when you're healing a knee, what you're doing is you're reactivating the light frequencies that recall the DNA. For example, when somebody dies at 82 or 102, they still have the same genetics as they were as a newborn. So why do they die? It's accumulation information technology, basically. It's senescence by accumulating a bad bioinformation, bad gene activation, and the bioaccumulation of toxins that block gene activation, enzymatic activity to create specific proteins, and to regenerate cells, tissues, and mitochondria, and keep the telomere length so the chromosomes don't start to unravel at the end of the telomere. So it's pretty straightforward. Basically, aging is informatics. And regeneration requires light therapy, requires the right nutrients, and requires detoxification. And a lot of people say, well, I had a question the other day about a gentleman who wanted to see if they can get a whole light pad made with lumen photon. You don't need to. You can move the light pad around. Right? In fact, you don't want to detox too fast. So I tell people, put it over the target organs. Put it over your kidneys, over your liver, over the area that your body is sore. Your body will tell you where you're having dysfunction. If you're having headaches or migraines, visual problems, if you're having upper abdominal problems or diabetes, if you're having kidney problems and blood pressure, put it over the lumbar 1. You'll see the C-reactive protein change. It's pretty dramatic when the body starts to respond to these approaches. You can add to that infrared light therapy with ProLine infrared sauna, pulse magnetic field. We now have a new magnetic device I'll be launching probably by tomorrow on the site, along with the 3-in-1 detox. The new magnetic device is from an engineer in China I've been collaborating with, and it creates a static field and a magnetic field work. But my favorite machine, I have it plugged in right now at my desk here in my studio, is lumen photon. And you can put it over a sore area. I did really heavy exercise this morning, so if I have a few areas that are stiff, and I've used my foam roller, I call the roller of torture, which is the one with the knuckles on it, or the other flat roller, to pop vertebrae and ribs back in after vigorous exercise. Lumen photon is amazing. I mean, you can turn off virtually any pain with it, including post-op pain after surgery. You can turn off migraines. You can turn off eye intraocular pressure problems. You can turn off coronary spasm and stimulate nitric oxide in your heart. It really is. You can reduce calcium scores, which is one of the best measures to see if you're getting better. Ron, the more I use this, the more I realize there's almost it's like I call it the infrared life Band-Aid for almost any health condition you can use your lumen photon on. If it's sore, if it's dysfunctional, if it needs to heal, if you're trying to get nutrients in there, or even our antipathogenics like LessEMF, Nutridiodine, our diatomic Tesla activated Edgar Cayce iodine, and Silver 100, lumen photon. It's like, wow.
So collagen is actually a ectoderm in origination?
Collagen is not ectoderm. Collagen basically is the superstructure, almost like the scaffolding for your cellular differentiation.
Okay.
And so the research at the University of Wisconsin found that if you actually take a ghost organ like a kidney, you can infuse stem cells from a human into a sheep kidney, or let's say a pig kidney, which is closer to human.
Right.
And it'll actually regrow a kidney that's human. The stem cells will differentiate into kidney cells and form glomeruli. Is that interesting or what?
Yeah.
So it's the collagen actually determines the firing signals to actually trigger off the specific gene complex to create organ differentiation. Interesting, eh?
Yeah, I did not know that link right there.
That's a very interesting link.
Before, and I didn't quite get that.
It's the phenolic side group, so the proline, and it's connected by the transhydroxylase enzyme, and we have, of course, the collagen max, which is orthosilicic silicon, so it triples the rate of that reaction. So if you're trying to improve your collagen, we call communication, collagen max is number 1. Number 2 is Regenerex. Not Regenerex, is our Myco D2. And of course we have our growth hormone stimulators, Supernox and Microdose. And the building blocks is my Mountain Red Velvet, 396 biomolecules, and 6 growth hormone factors. And light therapy, I tell people, if you want whole body, get a ProLine infrared sauna, but lumen photon's my machine. I'm so happy with this machine. You can plug it in your car, you can have it at your desk, if you got a sore feet, if you got a sore back, if you've got migraines, if you got a rib popped out of place because you're a little too active with your exercise, or you twisted the wrong way or slept funny at night. Use your foam roller and slap on lumen. I mean, there's more uses for this that it's amazing. It's like the Swiss Army knife of wellness.
Yeah. And we used I guess 4 or 5 days ago. I went up into the mountains with North Carolina, and we climbed an 85-foot rock face where a waterfall falls over, and we came out of it just exhausted. And the other 2 guys were both DCs. One had actually, they both had multiple PhDs and all that, but we were exhausted, and they were using lumen all the way home. I got to use mine when I got home.
That's funny.
There was no question. It was they were. I could tell because they were feeling better. They were smiling again. They were exhausted.
They're happy campers again.
Yeah, and so it's that was, and one of them was familiar with, the other one was unfamiliar with this at all, and he was cold laser person, and he said this changes his mind right there because he knew this was making a difference for him right off.
Oh, this is way better than cold laser. No comparison.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Happy with people to make you feel happier.
Yeah, stay right there. Ron's got a quick announcement to make for the big sale coming up on Friday to Monday. Ron, what's that announcement about over the sale this weekend? We're going to have a massive sale, a 7 for Heaven sale, and I guess what's the price off the Lumen Photon machines, the whole series of them?
$50 off on anything that anybody wants to get.
Wow, so that's on top of whatever amazing price we get already.
Yes, already.
We get an additional 50, which is fantastic. We already get another 50. So that's from Friday to Monday only. If you're thinking about getting a Lumen Photon machine, this is the time to get it. It's one of the most, I think it's the top recommended machine we get for anybody, whether it's the PMT 100, the Somopulse, the Metathera. Lumen is it. I mean, and the uses are amazing. I have mine actually turned on right now, and it's just, oh boy, you feel great when you use it. It really is amazing.
And it works on everything from horses to dogs, cats, everything. So
yeah, if you got a sore puppy or dog, or even birds, or a sore reptile, you can do this. Your reptiles will curl right up on your Lumen pad and say, "Thanks a lot, you're not getting the pad back."
Right.
And they may be able to prove to you that you're not getting it back too. So that's good. That's good. Okay, now we're going to be joined by Emil de Toffel. Emil, are you there? I don't hear Emil, so I guess we're going to be connecting to him shortly. So, Ron, let's continue until I get a message from. Yeah, so we're going to be connecting. Just keep on talking, Ron. Okay. What I want to mention here, too, is you need to have the right nutrients in your body to have the proper cell signaling. If your zinc copper levels aren't adequate, which we use with our Minerals Plus and Vitamineral Max, if you've got toxic heavy metals which are jamming cellular communication, you've got to get them out with Keeler Max, Liquid Zeolite, Samethyl, BioLVR to try to get out, especially methylation is important for getting heavy metals out. If you don't have proper intracellular minerals, which we can increase with NDMEs, which is a chaperone to bring minerals into your cells. And I tell people, if you've got heavy metals, you got to get the suckers out. You got to get the chemicals out, like bisphenol A, endocrine disruptors, etc. It's not really optional. In our toxic world, we're constantly being exposed now in the northern hemisphere to cesium-137, strontium-90. And if they look on our website, we have at quite a bit of expense and work. We put up our radiation sites. We now have a new one in Quesnel, British Columbia. We have a site now, it's going to be coming online from Illinois. We're looking also a site up in Edmonton, Alberta. We have sites all the way from California right through now to Quesnel, BC. And one that's maybe coming online shortly in Puget Sound, which I mentioned Quesnel is important, and Puget Sound, because as you go north, you're going to see radiation levels rise. When you're detoxing your body from heavy metals and chemicals, Lumen Photon is the way to go. You can put it right over your liver, over your abdomen, and your body will start the whole detox process. It amplifies it. So
it helps, even after people that had strokes, that sort of thing. We've had several cases where people have used it. It's much more quicker if it happens very shortly after the stroke.
And by the way, when it's on,
but if it's, and what we've seen is if Dr. Deagle is saying, "No, we can do it faster because you got the supplements will help out there." But it's one of those where if you just get it, start using it for just about everything under the sun, from sore feet to bad knees to low back.
Right. Yeah, and by the way, it does counteract the effect of electropollution too.
Yeah.
We use the Somopulse for the Schumann resonance generator effect, which is a polar magnetic field that was discovered at NASA by Dr. Bob Dennis and Dr. William Pollack, MD. Dr. Bob Dennis, PhD, worked at NASA on this research project in reproducing in a portable device. And, of course, the Lumen Photon stimulates your stem cells, activates cellular communication, and helps to counteract the toxic effects of electropollution. So it's one of the many things we use along with our electropollution protection protocol of nutraceuticals to protect you. And if you actually do a QRMA test, quantitative resonant magnetic test, and we'll be bringing on in September the engineer from China who has clinics in Hong Kong and in Shanghai, who's been working with the company for 22 years as a certified engineer who actually is very familiar with the QRMA and the Russian bioplasma NLS and the static magnetic field machine and other technologies. Light therapy is extremely important. That's why we push the Lumen Photon. And I tell people it detoxes your whole body. If you put it over L1, it's not just working at L1 and your low back. It's actually detoxing your whole body because it'll lower the C-reactive protein. And so it helps to buffer your body against electropollution. And when you check with the QRMA, you'll see your electrosensitivity level drop toward normal as you're taking the detox nutraceuticals and using these energetic technologies. And then, of course, also remediating, finding where it is in your home or business, using steps, riser, blocker, capacitors, going along with your gigahertz solutions frequency analyzer to actually measure, Wi-Fi networks, microwaves, cell phones, etc. Wi-Fi network should be shut off at night so you can get a proper sleep, and you should have steps, riser, capacitors all through your home. Check them periodically to see if there's new plugins, and you can wrap around your step-down transformers for your computers and other things that they're left on all the time. Or you can have one of these devices that actually shuts the power off to parts of your home so they don't backwash radiation. But part of the reversal is lumen photon to reverse the toxic effects, and you don't have to have it in your whole body. You can put it over the central part of your body. Your autonomic nervous system primarily centers over the kidneys and over the celiac plexus in your abdomen. Your autonomic nervous system is primarily controlled in the abdomen, not in the brain. The brain has some effects on it, but it's primarily abdominal in the celiac plexus. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Which is why lumen photon over L1 is right over celiac plexus. If you look at the celiac artery, it's rated L1. And the celiac ganglia, which is a giant, I call it your abdominal brain. The man with two brains. Everybody has two brains. You've got an abdominal brain, which is the celiac plexus, a giant plexus of different nerves, which is quite a bit of if you call neurological matter. It's not just a little minor thing. It's huge, and there's ganglia all along the autonomic ganglia, all along the spinal areas of your back and the retroperitoneal space, and then there's giant celiac ganglia, and they're directly affected by lumen. So, very, very effective. So, Ron, we will talk next week, and I guess after the holiday, of course, $50 off on all the different lumen photon devices. So, we're now joined by Emil de Toffel. Emil, good afternoon. Let's talk about some of the dangers of electropollution, and let's talk about remediation a bit now. There are ways of actually measuring it, and I think you sent a few articles over the last couple of months dealing with some new measures of not only gene SNPs or polymorphisms of the DNA that increase your risk, but also some markers of electropollution. A lot of people think this is benign. And I'd like you to explain why it's not benign and why you can get the same type of micronuclei outside your cells, which are a measure of ionizing radiation like Chernobyl or Fukushima. You can get the same disruption of the blood-brain barrier. You can get the same disruption of DNA synthesis and transformation to create messenger RNA molecules and cell signaling. It's a very serious problem. And the problem is that I really don't think that it's penetrating through even to the great extent to our audience here that kind of thinks, well, I use my cell phone, I don't feel sick when I use it. Or some people say, hey, I'm losing my hearing on that side. It's because your cell phone is frying those neurons. In fact, if you look at the cranial neurons and the insular area of the temporal lobe on the side where people are cell phone dominant and they have their cell phone, you'll often find cataracts much faster on that side, memory problems, visual hearing problems, and vertigo, all showing neurological testing on the dominant side where their cell phone is often clamped like a cyborg to the side of their head.
Interesting. I came across a study just maybe 2 weeks ago where they were looking at patients that have epilepsy and their use of cell phones, and they were developing a focus of epilepsy on the other side of the brain where they use the cell phone.
Isn't that interesting? We'll be right back. We'll be right back and we'll talk about that.
Global.
Welcome back, and Emil, so let's talk about this for a moment. When you're doing testing, and we talked about this briefly before, I acquired my equipment over a period of a couple of years. I started off with the gigahertz solutions for measuring the radiation from my smart meter. Then I got the stensorizer tester to plug in around my home, and then put in the capacitors to block the low-frequency toxic radiation. Triggered off by switching remote power supplies throughout my home, these step-down power transformers, etc., and all the different electropollution that's coming into the home. And then lastly was basically the magnetic and electrical field testing device that could be hooked up to an oscilloscope so you can actually look at the frequencies on your laptop. I think also you have range of materials all the way from clothing to blocking materials to block radiation to devices that can be used to protect your electronic equipment in your home. You probably even have all the devices that you can actually set up a net or something in your attic and run one wire down to give you protection against electropollution. For EMP, because a lot of people are worried now about EMP from a solar coronal mass ejection or sunspots, but there's other ways that can be triggered off. So it can be triggered off by event horizon of a star entering event horizon of a center of the galaxy. They can be triggered off by a red dwarf star that comes into our solar system, which returns about every 3,650 years, and causes major CMEs because it's 200 times more the magnetic field of the sun. And it can be triggered off by warfare. An EMP of a relatively low-yield nuke at 120,000 feet, fired a few hundred miles offshore, could take radially around 1,500 miles of pretty well every electronic thing you can think of, from your home to your computer to your car, and knock it out. I think that people should realize that most EMP comes straight down from above, so protection is really important. But it also, you need to protect your DNA. That we're under a lot of stress. Stress in all of its forms, according to Hans Selye, it basically is free radicals. And free radicals cause DNA adducts. They disrupt cell membrane, cell communication, stem cell differentiation of embryos, and healing of tissues. It's not a minor thing. And if you add the stress of smart meters on your home and overuse of cell phones, you get cancer, you get autoimmune disease, break down the blood-brain barrier, you get all kinds of nasty things happening, like cataracts on the side of the head that you're using them, hearing problems and vertigo problems, memory problems because it affects the hippocampus on the side of the head involved. You mentioned before the break about seizures. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a recent study was done in which they were looking at people who had epilepsy, and they constructed a special helmet to hold a cell phone in a fixed position. And they put this helmet on these people's heads, and they did 3 studies. They did one in which the phone was not activated. By the way, there was 2 phones, one on each side, I should say. So the one study was when the phones were not active. The second study was when the phone on the right side was active. And the third study when the phone on the left side was active. And they had a variety of epilepsy patients who they did this with. And, of course, the patients did not know which state the phones were in. They were on, they were left, they were right. And what they found is that the presence of the phone when they were on stimulated an epilepsy experience in the opposite side of the brain. Not the same side where the active phone was, but in the opposite side. And so it was a very interesting experiment because, you might think, well, you're likely to see the damage where the radiation is the highest, nearest to the phone. And so it raises the question, first of all, is that what happens inside the head? Is the radiation truly highest nearest the phone? Remember, the head, you have a skull, which can reflect microwave radiation, and then you have the brain inside, and you have circulation of the blood and so on. So it's not a static lump of material there. And so we don't really know, even through testing on phantom heads, where they use a special gel, and they can measure how much radiation exposure there is in different parts of the phantom head. It's a homogeneous gel that does not really act. It might have the same conductivity or the same mineral content or so on, but it does not act the way the brain, a live brain, does. A live brain reacts. It can cut off circulation, it can increase circulation, it can heat up, it can cool off, it can think, it can react. And so it's a big question of what happens to that radiation when it gets inside your head. Obviously, it has an effect.
Yeah, I think there's 3 classes that could be tested with a Z-score or advanced markers. The first is that, number 1, we know it directly affects metabolism and suppresses it by stress on the side of exposure. If it's doing seizures on the opposite side, it can do it by 3 mechanisms. The first would be it suppresses it on one side, so you get a compensating overactivity of astrocytes on the opposite side, where there's less radiation exposure that disrupts the processes, but enough to stimulate a adaptive response which causes hyperactivity. That would be my most likely. The second is that it's actually setting up a stimulation to suppress we call the depressor parts of the nervous system, which actually turns off seizures, because there's an activating system that's glutamate responsive, and there's an inhibitory that's just GABA and other inhibitory neurotransmitters like myoinositol. That's the second thing. It's actually what it's doing is it's inhibiting the inhibiting part of the nervous system in what's called the RES, or reticular activating system, because there's 3 classes of neurons, RES 1, 2, and 3, which is a basis for treatment for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They're trying to stimulate the class 2 RES cells so they can suppress overactivity of the brain. and my guess is it may have some RES activity, that radiation is somehow suppressing RES of the classes that allow overactivity and seizure activity. The third is that it actually is causing loss of nutrients. So the loss of nutrients actually cause those parts of the brain that are not suppressed by high levels of radiation, and you get magnesium deficiency, which triggers off seizures, because the primary deficiency mineral under stress is magnesium. And when you get a local magnesium deficiency, organs devolve into hypoxia, acidosis, and stealth passages and toxins build up, and you get overactivity of cell metabolism that kind of goes wild, and that'd be one. And there could be a mixture of those different mechanisms at causing this to happen. It's all very bad, though. That's why, for example, in Europe, where they're much more open to suppressing corporate greed, it's against the law to sell cell phones to children in France and Germany. And many places in private schools in Europe, they don't allow even Wi-Fi networks at all, because they know it interferes with the memory trace and laying down a permanent memory. So children that are taught and look like they're going to lay down a permanent memory, they don't recall because they didn't get the final stage 2 or stage 3 of memory traces in the hippocampus, because they're interfered with by Wi-Fi networks in their school classroom or their apartment if they're in a college dormitory or something like that, or school dormitory. So it's interesting that the Wi-Fi network can actually interfere with learning even in mice, and there's been mice experiments that have shown that they can't find the cheese after they've been zapped. Interesting, hey?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And what I take away from it is, yes, we don't really understand the mechanism of why the cell phone might affect the brain on the opposite side, but we can't always assume that a little bit of distance is enough protection. So, certainly you don't want that phone up to your head, but a little bit of distance may not be enough. We may need to think about taking greater precaution, using large distance, or not using the phone, or really having an effective shield on the phone before we think about using it.
Well, the shield that I have my phone in all the time is I have one of those shields where I slide it in, and if the side against my body, there's no radiation. Side away, you could still get a phone call or vibrate, and then I use a speakerphone. I never use one of the headphone jacks. And if you do, you want an air headphone jack where it has an air tube to your ear, so you're not carrying that electrical current on the wire all the way into your middle ear.
Agreed.
That's simple suggestions, and you can get that equipment at LessEMF. You can get radiation blocking materials for your home, your windows, a blocker barrier if your next door neighbor won't get their smart meter off, which is what I did. All doable. And you want to find out what's really going on, go step-by-step, contact Emil at LessEMF. Now's the time to do it. Thank you, Emil, and we'll have you back on soon. Welcome back, and if you're not drinking clean filtered water, you want to have a Bev 100 system. Snap on your RV or your apartment. It can snap on your tap. And by the way, we ship them all over the world, whether you're Saudi Arabia, Ireland, South Africa, Australia, and these are the best systems on the planet. They can be adapted to fit any tap. They're fantastic. They'll fill up quickly. I have a Bev 100 with an automatic pump system in my greenhouse, and I'm about to just change my filters again, which is the deionizer and the pre-filter system. So that's 2 filters I'll be replacing here in the next few days. I think it's important for people to understand that no other system competes with our pure water system. I search around the world, find the best technology, and then I market it. And this is the best. It was at our meeting, I think, 7-8 years ago. We met at one of the American College for Advancement in Medicine, or AAEM meetings you were attending, and I thought, well, this is the best system. And we just started really getting into it. And I had previously used a system that was using, a solid charcoal system that was significantly inferior. But it was the best that I had until your system. But the other systems that are out there, like the Berkey or any of these ones that I call the energy vampire systems that pull it from the air. I mean, if you're out in the desert and that's all you had to have, you need to have it, but you got to have a solar panel or something that's going to be quite a bit of a source of power. This only requires 50 psi pressure, which you can develop with a hand pump or a 12-volt pump if you have a base station, which is the Bev 200 tackle box. The Bev 300 is a 5-gallon pressure tank, so you get lots and lots of water every day. So Bev 300 will service underneath your sink. And the whole house system is the best whole house system for easy servicing. I mean, when I had my plumbers come in to just pop the filters, because they can pop them in and off in 5 minutes, or I can do it myself. It's really easy. You just take the wrench and snap, pull it. It's 22 inches long, each canister. And you're pulling out the chloramines, the sediment, radiotoxins, a lot of the stuff. You get most of the chloramines out. It doesn't get all the fluoride out. It gets a lot of it out. But you get all of it out when you go through the whole house system to the pure water system for your drinking water. So if you're having a shower, your shower is completely different. You don't have chloramines anymore. You don't have radiotoxins, and you don't have viruses or bacteria. And when you drink water with the Bell 300 system on the other end of that, on the other side of it, your water is fantastic. So I tell people there is no competitor. They'll pretend there's a competitor, but that's not the case. It just isn't. So tell us why other companies think they're a competitor and why they're not.
Hi, Dr. Bill. Thanks for that glowing introduction. I had a customer call the other day, and he was asking questions about, he wanted me to compare to some other water purification company. And, and I went online, and I looked, and they were talking about their ability to remove fluoride and heavy metals. So I got to looking at their technology. And this is pretty typical of most of the companies in this industry, is that, people talk about the things they do well. They don't talk about the things they don't do. They won't mention that. And okay, pure water systems. In spirit of full transparency, what don't we get out? We have a trouble with tritium. Because tritium, as far as water filter goes, looks just like a water molecule. Because it's an isotope of water. And so, that's our limitation. Other systems, so I look at this system, and I look, okay, they remove fluoride and heavy metals, and so I get to looking at the technology. Well, they use KDF media. Well, KDF, the folks who make that, it's a copper-zinc alloy. You and I know that that's called brass. It's really nothing more than compressed brass shavings. And brass, of course, has a little bit of oligodynamic effect. It makes it hard for bacteria to reproduce. That's why you find it on the doorknobs in most hospitals. But it's brass shavings, so that means that over time that brass is slowly leaching copper and zinc into the water stream as it captures or converts fluoride to more readily removed types of forms. But when that's exhausted, then all those things come back in your water. And so this is a problem with a lot of companies, is they say, oh yeah, we're a great fluoride filter, but they don't say how much fluoride. They don't tell you specifically how many gallons you can process or something like this at what flow rates. I got to looking at their technology, and everything was listed for half a gallon per minute flow rate. Well, half a gallon per minute flow rate's the kind of flow rate you get through a real slow filter for your refrigerator. But when you're talking about the water for your whole house, you're talking about up to 8, 9, 10 gallons a minute. So there's no way that system can be effective at a high flow rate. And of course, the manufacturer doesn't say this anywhere on their website.
You're kidding. They're not going to admit to all these bad things?
They're not going to tell you where they're weak, and they're just going to a lot of companies, unfortunately, don't have the ethics that we have at Pure Water Systems. They're going to tell you, what they think you want to hear in order to sell you a product. And at Pure Water Systems, I hope people understand, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been around the water industry since 1984, so I got 30 years around the idea of water. I've seen systems come and go. I've seen fads come and go. And I know what technologies are used to remove contaminants. And I know which ones are effective, which ones have weaknesses, what those weaknesses are, and how to overcome them. And that's what our system does. And this is the important thing. It's not a filter to get out the fluoride but leave the cadmium. It's not a filter that gets out the fluoride but instead gives you a huge dose of copper or zinc. We take out contaminants. Our goal is to give you H2O. And people say, oh, well, H2O, there's water not like that on Earth. Why would you give us such pure water? I'm like, well, that's what rainwater is. It's H2O. Now, of course, it picks up dust in the atmosphere and contaminants in the atmosphere. But, back in the day when before mankind came along and trashed everything, or before a volcano dumped all kinds of stuff in the air, you know, you had H2O, and I'm sure that there's places in the whole rainforest on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State that if you go and you collect rainwater in one of those, you know, 30 inches in one day rainstorms, you're going to find H2O and not a lot else. So pure water does exist. Vancouver, British Columbia, they drink the purest water I've seen for natural water anywhere on the planet. And so you don't need a system that leaves, you know, a lot of companies say, well, our system leaves the beneficial minerals. Well, if you could get beneficial minerals from your water, you can get beneficial minerals from sucking on stones. And we don't fill our mouth full of gravel in order to get our nutrients. We eat food. And plants eat rocks, and we eat plants. And those minerals are then bioavailable because they're naturally chelated, they're bound to organic molecules, and the enzymes in your body know what to do with them. So don't be fooled when you hear people say, well, we leave the beneficial minerals, because you can't leave the beneficial minerals and get out the arsenic.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. You take out all of them so that you get rid of the dangerous heavy metals, cadmium, mercury, arsenic, etc., radioactive particles, etc., or you leave them in. It's not one or the other. It's one or the other. You can't have partial. There's no filter on the market that says, oh, okay, you're calcium ion. I'm going to leave 1,200 calcium ions for every 1 million parts of water, and then I'm going to shut them off. You know, and so this is
you have to add the back
the
end
limitations
afterwards
of the technology, how things work, and if you want to get rid of the dangerous contaminants, you take out everything. That's the only way. And so the pure water systems, we take out everything. Now there's a number of products. We make a pH plus. You can add back a little bit of calcium and magnesium if you choose to. Or my recommendation is eat food. Eat good food, healthy food. Eat a lot of raw fruits and vegetables that are organic. And then your body will get some bioavailable trace minerals. But the idea that you're going to get that by, you know, not using our water filter, instead choosing something that leaves the beneficial minerals, well, what if you live where the beneficial minerals include uranium, like many places in the Rocky Mountains, or places that have arsenic? You know, so the secret is there's no easy way around this if you want to have pure, safe drinking water. Not pure, safe to the government standards, which includes, oh, well, you can have a little of this and a little of that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. By the way, if they want to save 10%, you use the code Nutrimed, right? N-U-T-R-I-M-E-D when they go through our link from our website to your Pure Water System website. And, of course, this weekend we have a big sale coming on. Any additional recommendations on what extra sale they'll receive besides the 10%?
I'll let you announce it. We'll talk about it, and you can announce it tomorrow, Dr. Bill.
Absolutely. Give me a shout tomorrow. Pop in on the program. We'll get you in on perhaps one of the hours, perhaps hour two, perhaps, for a moment. But work on an idea of what you think. But they already get 10%. But for the sale, maybe another couple percent, I think will make people finally make a decision. I want a pure water system. I don't want to drink Fukushima water. I don't want to drink industrial or agricultural runoff. I don't want to drink toilet to tap water. No, that's the first step in getting your health back.